What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters, and welcome to No Life to Metal. Going to be doing a part 2 to albums metalheads love to hate, and it was a successful part 1 to the video. A lot of people asked me to do a part 2 and made recommendations, so I pulled some of those recommendations, and I'll just give some of my thoughts on them. But some of these are pretty obvious, I think. But I'm going to start right off with Judas Priest. This is Jugulator, and this was the Ripper years, and people generally do hate this album. Just a side note here, I did pull CDs for this video rather than vinyl this time. I have most of these on vinyl. I don't have this one on vinyl, I wish. I am of a way different opinion. I love this record. Is it their best album ever? No. I mean, it's not going to topple, you know, Screaming for Vengeance or Sin After Sin or Stained Class or, you know, Hellbent for Leather. Those are classic albums. But I think this album is decent. I really don't see it. It's all that horrible album that people claim it to be. I just think Ripper's on it, so, you know, it's not Halford, and people just can't accept Priest without Halford. Saw the band this tour. They were fantastic. And I might admit, there was a song, went into Hastings, which was a chain superstore, music superstore, that was around a while ago. They went out of business a couple years ago, and they were giving away free copies of the song, which one was it? Bullet Train. And cassette singles. Remember those singles? So I grabbed that thing, and I had a cassette deck in my car at the time. I popped it in. I love that track. I couldn't wait for this album to come out after hearing that. I mean, I was, you know, pretty skeptical about, you know, Halford not being there anymore, and I think they did a good job. I mean, no, it's not a great album. There's some cheese on here, but, you know, it is what it is. I think Cathedral Spires, in particular, like I said, Bullet Train, and even the title track, Jugulator, are all great Priest songs. Cathedral Spires, in particular, I think is an awesome Priest song. I'd love to hear that one with Halford singing on it. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's the Ripper years. People don't like it as much, not Halford, but I still think it's a decent album from them. I enjoy it. So, this is kind of a similar situation. You guys who watch my videos any amount of time know that I grew up on the East Coast. Anthrax were a local band for me. I was part of that whole New Jersey, New York metal scene in the early 80s. So I was a huge fan of, you know, the early Anthrax albums. I was a huge fan of the Belladonna years. So this one was a big different change, you know. But I gotta admit, Anthrax, Sound of White Noise actually did it for me. I mean, I thought it was a good album. I know a lot of people hate this album. Some people call it grunge. It's not grunge. There's nothing grunge about this album. It's just a slower, darker, deeper Anthrax sound. You know, it's not the fast, whimsical stuff that they were doing. You know, there's no Bermuda shorts on here. There's no songs about you know, comic book heroes on here and whatnot. It's just a darker, deeper Anthrax. You know, they were dealing with a lot of crap in their life at the time. They had a new singer in John Bush from Armored Saints, and frankly, I think he does a great job, and I think it's a great record. Really, a great record. Not just a good record, not just an album that has a few songs I like on it. I think it's a great record. So, metalheads can hate it all they want. I dig it. Anthrax, Sound of White Noise. This next one was ones that people suggested. Now, I've never hated these records, and I didn't really even think of them as albums that people hate, that metal fans hate. But I do understand where some people are probably coming with. But this is Black Sabbath's Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. Now, in the late 70s with Ozzy era, there was a lot of crap going on in the band. I mean, there was substance abuse, there was fighting, and they had put out, what, 5-6 albums up to that point, so, you know, their creative juices probably weren't flowing as well. They just weren't, you know, the same band they were. I still think they're good albums, though. You know, like I said, they're not quite as heavy as some of the earlier Black Sabbath albums, but there's some great stuff in here. I mean, the title track on Never Say Die is just a brilliant song. Overkill's covered that song and did a great job with it. But there's some other stuff on here. Tommy Blade's a fun song. Again, I understand it's not a real heavy song. It's a little more swinging, you know, hard rock stuff, but it's still a good song. I'm trying to think of what else I like on these. Air Dance, Breakout, Swinging the Chain. On this one here, you've got Gypsy Boots, which I think is great. Rock and Roll Doctor, which is great. She's Gone, Dirty Woman. You've got I'm gonna have an avalanche here in a second. Let me fix this. There you go. You've got drummer Bill Ward singing on this album for a track. You know, no, it's not the same. It's not the same, but it's not bad either. I mean, to say this is a crap album is just, I don't know. I just disagree with that. I enjoy it, and I actually pull it out and listen to it quite a bit. You know, when I'm in a Sabbath mood, I grab these from time to time, and just as much as I grab, Master Reality or Volume 4. So, as a matter of fact, I tend to pull these out more than I do the first two albums, just because I've heard those so many times. They're so overplayed. Of course, they came back with Dio and put out 2 killer albums. So this one is justified. Me myself, I'm a huge fan of this guy, this guitar player. I have been since I was literally a kid. But this is Ted Nugent Penetrator. This is Atlantic Records just pushing, Uncle Ted to go in a direction that Uncle Ted wasn't comfortable with at the time, and metal fans and hard rock fans, whatever you want to call it, just weren't expecting from him. I mean, literally, the keyboards are as important as the guitars, and that's just not something you expect from Ted Nugent. The guy, anybody wants to get mellow, you know what I mean? It just wasn't Ted Nugent. This is a very commercial album. Now, had this album been released under a different name at the time, it could have done really much better than it did. I mean, a song like Tied Up in Love is huge hook. I mean, very much in like an AOR style, but why in 88, 87, was it earlier than that, maybe even 84, when this album came out? That could have been a huge radio hit. But again, it was Ted Nugent. It wasn't what people wanted. People wanted Cat Scratch Fever. People wanted Great White Buffalo. And what you got was Tied Up in Love and Draw the Line. And Ted wasn't even singing as much as he was on past albums. He had, I'm trying to think of the name of the singer that was on this album. What was his name? Of course, I can't remember it now when I'm on camera. That's how it goes. Vocals, Brian Howe. And yeah, very melodic voice. Like I said, very commercial sounding record. The keyboards being as important as the guitars in this record, but there's still some, lean, mean, nasty Ted Nugent on here. Songs like Lean, Mean, Rock and Roll Machine. That's definitely a Nugent one. Thunder Thighs. I mean, that's a pretty typical Ted Nugent song. Again, you got the stupid lyrics, but Nugent had a lot of stupid lyrics. The whole rock star womanizer thing was pretty common in the 70s and 80s, and that's definitely the case with this one. Cool artwork on the cover, though. This is a band who, I don't know, this aren't as mainstream as some of the ones I've already shown, but it's Mortification. Mortification were a death metal band out of Australia, this being their 4th album. Their first demo, which was also later released on vinyl and CD, was called Break the Curse, very much in the German-style thrash metal mode, pushing towards early death metal like Death or Possessed. Then there's their next record, self-titled Mortification, which was their first official record. That was very much straightforward death metal. And then with Scrolls of the Megaloth, they were just full-on death metal. Very brutal, very technical. That's a great album. With the follow-up album, they moved away from it. They got a little more progressive. They got a little more pushing more again towards thrash. And Steve Rowe, vocalist, went from using all guttural growls to mixing it up with like kind of shouts here and there. It was only like used as an effect here and there. It wasn't like used on full songs. On this album, he started using that kind of hardcore shouting on whole songs, and people hated it. It just, it was a different Mortification. Jason Sherlock had left the band, drummer Jason Sherlock, and he was a huge part of their sound. He was one of their songwriters. And this album definitely has a more of a thrash metal and at times hardcore vibe, and people just didn't dig it for that reason. I still think it's a good album. I mean, there's these songs on here like Symbiosis, which easily could have been on, Post Momentary Affliction. JGSH, which is one of those short, punky thrash songs. Again, that could have been on any of the last albums. But other songs like Starlight, Your Life, Blood World, Clan of the Light, I can understand it's definitely a different Mortification, but they were never a band to sit still and continue to do the same record over and over again. So I think it's a good album. I like it. It was actually, oddly enough, as much as metal fans hated it, it was one of their biggest selling albums. Nuclear Blast released it in Europe, and I think it was Intense Records here in the United States that released it, and it sold like gangbusters. But again, a lot of metal fans to this day hate that record. Another very obvious one. This kind of goes along with the Judas Priest album I showed earlier, with people just not wanting another vocalist in the band and X Factor. And I gotta admit, I was one. When this album came out, I hated it. This is not Maiden. This doesn't sound like Maiden. There's no Die With Your Boots On here. There's no, you know, Wrathchild or Where Eagles Dare or Run to the Hills. It wasn't that galloping, dual guitar, you know, band that I had known. You know, there was no over the top vocals and high screaming, and you know, it just was a very different Iron Maiden. Over the years, I've really grown to like this album. It's actually King Fowley from Deceased, October 31. It was actually him and I were having a discussion online, and he's like, dude, you really need to revisit that record. And true enough, I know I hadn't heard it in years when he suggested it, so I grabbed it, pulled it out, and I just must have been in the right headspace, because it just hit me. I'm like, this is not a bad album. This is actually a good album. It's just a very different Iron Maiden. It's darker, kind of like the Anthrax album. It's just darker. It's not as, you know, light and airy is kind of what I'm thinking of. This is a moodier, darker, moodier album. Is it their best album? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't put it up in my top, you know, 5 albums. Some bands would just think it's crap. Again, I don't think it's crap. I kind of like it now. There's some songs in here that they've played live over the years. So you've got, let's see, Lord of the Flies, I believe, is on here. Yeah. And what was the other songs? I can't read these things. This is a ridiculous size type, man. It's got to be like 4-point type. Ridiculous. Let's see here. Yeah, I can read this one. Yeah, Lord of the Flies is on here. Sign of the Cross is on here. Man on the Edge. Yep, exactly. Yeah, like I said, it's not a bad album. Of course, Eddie's much different on here too, with his, looks like his second lobotomy happening there. He's already had one lobotomy, so having a second lobotomy here. Again, no, I wouldn't put it on my top list, but I dig it. This next album I have no defense for. None. I love this band. New wave British heavy metal band, Saxon. Clearly going for the let's make it big like Def Leppard vibe here. You've got just total garbage on this record. There's a few songs that aren't bad on here, Battle Cry, but then you got songs like, seriously, there's a song on here called Party Till You Puke. That's just not a Saxon song. That is just garbage. A couple of songs on here have Elton John doing guest piano and maybe some guest background vocals. It's just not the Saxon that I'm into. And the thing is, I pulled this one as well, because I remember when this one came out, people hated it. Now this album I like a lot, and oddly enough, over the years, I think people have grown to like this album much more than this album. But this song's got, like, again, it is more melodic. It is obviously more of an attempt for commercial sound, but you've got songs like Rockin' Again, Back on the Streets is a great, Rock and Roll Gypsy is a great song, Broken Heroes, which is kind of a ballad-esque song, but it's still you know, a good heavy song from them. Everybody Up, Racing Hell. I dig this album. Don't really so much dig this album, but it didn't really do that well for them, and thankfully they returned to a heavier sound not too long after this album. So a couple songs that you know are decent, but overall, Rock the Nations has got to be one of the worst Saxon albums in the catalog. Yeah, this one I've not grown to like. I still can't really get into this one. I bought it as a new album. The new release when it came back out, but yep, German. You know, I'd call them European power metal, especially those early albums, and a lot of the stuff they've done since this album have been that kind of European power metal style. This is just not good. I just don't really know what to say about it. It's just kind of a pop rock album. It was an attempt at a different style, and I don't know that it was an attempt for commercial success. I just think they were looking to do something different, and they tried it, and to me, it's just not what I want to hear when I want to hear Halloween, so it's not an album. I can't even remember the last time I spun it, to tell you the truth, so who knows, maybe if I gave it another chance, I might like it these days, but I mean, it's been years. Literally just pulled this one off the shelf just because someone else recommended it on the YouTube channel. This next album I love, and several people suggested this one. I don't know. I always like this album, so I understand it's a little different, but KREATOR, Renewal. Again, thrash metal was kind of waning by the late 90s. What year was this? 98? What year was this? I can't even remember. It got dark in here. Might have even been earlier than that. Might have been like, I don't know. Might have been the early 90s. But it's still got a lot of the thrash metal elements, but it's a little more cold, a little more industrial sounding. It's got that kind of steely industrial vibe to it. There's some droning parts in here, so it's definitely more experimental. To me, I don't think that they were trying to sell out so much or trying to put out something commercial. I just think they were trying something different, trying something new. Didn't want to put the same album out twice, and it's thrash. They had put so many albums that were very similar in style before this one. They just tried something new. To many people, it didn't work. To me, it did. I enjoyed it. I still think it's a good album. I actually spun it today when I was pulling out the CDs. I was like, oh, I haven't heard that one in a while. I just popped it in and totally enjoyed it. So this next one I mentioned in the last video. I should have probably pulled it in the last video. This was another Atlantic Records, kind of like Penetrator or the Raven Pack is Back I showed in the last video. SAVATAGE, Fight for the Rock. This was pushing a band to sound commercial when they really weren't a commercial band. SAVATAGE obviously redeemed themselves since this album. They put out many, many great albums since then, including the right after this one, the Hall of the Mountain King, which actually did all right for them. It was commercially successful. I remember seeing the Hall of the Mountain King video on MTV's Headbangers Ball a bazillion times back in the day. But yeah, Fight for the Rock. It's got a few decent songs on it, but overall it's just much more commercial and pop-oriented than I care for SAVATAGE to be. Again, maybe if I revisit it now, I haven't heard it in a while, I probably might like it better than I remember it, but yeah, it's just not one of their best albums. For me, it would be the bottom of the pile for SAVATAGE. Everybody said this one. This one showed up in about a bazillion, is that even a thing? But a bunch of people's posts, and so I ended up pulling 3 albums by this band because everybody was kind of. I got a lot of comments on the Metallica one, but this is Megadeth, and this album is pretty much garbage. There is not much on here that I care for. I must confess, I really like Crush 'Em. It's totally not a Megadeth style song, but it was obviously written like as a "We Will Rock You" for the hockey barns of the world, and being that I'm a huge hockey fan, and the song kind of reminds me of the Flyers because of their orange Crush 'Em. I kind of dig it, and for that reason only. It's not a great Megadeth song, but it's a cool anthem. So for that reason, I like that one song. The rest of the album, I can take it or leave it. I mean, it's just not a great record. It's some of this almost pop rock in nature, very different from Megadeth, and I can see why people don't like it and why fans hate it. So I remember Breadline being and Prince of Darkness being kind of songs that were played alive quite a bit around this time and for the next couple years, but yeah, you don't see them playing that stuff anymore. These two were the same way. People hated this one. I actually liked this one when it came out and still like it to this day. Saw them on this tour. Thought they were great. They played quite a few songs on it. Yeah, it's more melodic, but I don't understand if you like the Black Album from Metallica, why you couldn't dig Cryptic Writings. I mean, this is an obvious attempt at a heavier sound, but very much a commercial sound. So yeah, it wasn't thrash metal. So for that reason, many fans didn't like it. But I still think it's a successful sound for Megadeth. There's a lot of great songs, but he still plays the song Trust live quite a bit. I've seen Megadeth 5, 6, 7 times, and I've seen him play Trust a few times. But yeah, it's I can see why these two are not fan favorites. And one more, again, this one came out and a lot of fans hated it. A lot of fans said it was sellout crap, poser crap, whatever. Poser's a stupid word if you ask me. If you listen to what you like and ignore the rest. But this is Euthanasia. I always thought the cover was rather disturbing but cool, well done. I actually think this is a fantastic album. I like it far better than either one of those that I just showed. I actually think there's some great songs on here. Reckoning Day's great. Train of Consequence is great. A Tout Le Monde is a ballad, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of dark and I don't know, foreboding is kind of the word I'm thinking of here. It's a song about death, you know. Kind of metallic. Yeah, it's kind of like Metallica's "Fade to Black." So you know, it kind of has that vibe or emotion to it. The Killing Road, Blood and Honor is a great song. The title track's a great song. Black Curtains is a really cool song. And then the last song is kind of cool because it kind of, the lyrics are all made up of titles from old Megadeth songs. So again, I understand why people don't like it. It was definitely a departure in sound. But it wasn't a huge departure. It was just kind of the direction the band was headed at the time. So Megadeth, Euthanasia. So there you go. There's some more albums that metal fans love to hate. I really appreciate all the people that that posted in the last one. Thanks for watching. That's it. God bless. Stay strong.